There we go. There we go. Introduce you to the 3 constitutions. We'll talk about what constitutions are, and we will also talk about doing an analysis with these things. Now, as we go through this, please feel free to ask questions and make comments, and we will make sure that we get things answered for you as much as time permits today. All righty, if my slides would advance, I would be a very happy camper. Let me just rearrange my screen a tiny bit here. Oh my goodness. Don't you love it when tech works? Okay, let me just, there we go. Okay. Sometimes tech and I do not see eye to eye. I would like to take just a moment to introduce myself to you in case we are new to one another. My name is Judith Cobb, and I am a master herbalist, natural nutrition clinical practitioner, and a certified iridology instructor, and a comprehensive certified iridologist. I got into holistic healing over 4 decades ago because I had health problems that were not being answered or addressed by the medical world. And I was pretty frustrated with that, and there needed to be another way. And that was when I was presented with the opportunity to learn iridology and herbology and nutrition, for which I am eternally grateful. I have been in the industry for just over 4 decades. I have written many books. I'm just trying to get this other screen over here where I can monitor things. There we go. I've written several books that were self-published and self-distributed. Pregnancy Naturally, The Herbal Birth Kit Handbook, Healthy Kids Naturally, The Essential Guide to Nature's Sunshine Products. Hello, Honeybee and Auntie, good to see you. And Biokinesiology and Color Therapy Level 1 and 2, the Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology textbook, which is the textbook for the Iridology course I teach. I've also taught created and taught many courses way back before the internet, when information seemed to be hard to come by. I produced and taught a 20-hour Level 1 herbology course, which was teaching people how to use herbs, commercially prepared herbs in their home for family health. Those students so loved that program that they begged for more, which was so much fun. And so we created a 16-hour advanced level of that, again, teaching them how to recognize when to use what kinds of herbs in their home. I also did design and teach biokinesiology and color therapy level 1 and 2. For a few years, I was a certified prenatal educator and taught antenatal classes. That was a ton of fun, and that is one of my passions, doing fertility and pregnancy work. I also, as a part of preparing to teach Iridology and to be certified as an Iridology instructor with IPA, I wrote the textbook for my students. It's a digital downloadable textbook available only to my students, and it is called the Dynamic Iridology Assessment System. That's the name of the course, and the textbook is Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology. Stay with me to the end of today, and I'm going to give you like a 30-second commercial about the course. And I'm just realizing that I probably don't have my microphone turned on. Let me just pop back into here. You may be wondering what the heck. Oh, we did have the microphone on. Oh, that is so good. Do you have days like that? There we go. Hello. Let's turn the camera on too. There we go. Hello. At any rate, stay with me, and we're going to do a 30-second commercial about the Dynamic Iridology course, which is coming up in September again. But in the meantime, I do want to just reiterate that this information that we're sharing today is only meant for your education. It's not meant to diagnose or prescribe, and you are responsible for what happens when you use this information. I am not responsible for what you do with it. All righty. Excellent. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I would love it if you would, those of you who've joined me, if you would give me just a little introduction, let me know who you are, where you're from. I'd also love to know if you have any iridology background, because that will let me know how deep I can go into this little workshop today. So if you wouldn't mind just giving me where you're from. That's always fun to see how global these little webinars go. And I would love to know if you have iridology background and maybe, whether it's Jensenian or constitutional or exactly what it is. We'll be together for about another 30 to 40 minutes. So I hope you've got pen and paper and that you are ready to rock and roll with me today. Yes. Okay. So a tiny bit more about me. I am a mom of 7, a grandma of 8. And yeah, I've been in this industry for 4 decades now. I love using Iridology in my clinical work because it does speed up how quickly I can assess my clients and how quickly I can create the program that will take them for the next 4 to 6 weeks to reach that next level in their health. And that is exactly why I love using Iridology. I do not believe in doing the kind of an iris assessment that is what I would call and this is kind of a crude saying, vomit all over them assessment. I don't believe in giving clients an assessment where I list out every marker I see and every problem it could mean and every solution they will need. I believe in keeping my client sessions very focused, first on what the client needs and wants. And once we have achieved those results, it clears the way for me to take them to deeper levels with their health. But I have to start with where my client is at. Is that something that makes sense? Does that resonate with you? If that resonates with you, give me a 1 in the comments wherever you are. If it makes sense to focus your work on what your client's needs and goals are first. I do find that with using Iridology, I can do my assessments more quickly, more accurately, and that it helps me to create faster and better rapport health-wise. Thank you for saying that was a 1, that you agreed with me on that. And I find that when I do an iris assessment, I don't need an intake form. I still do use an informed consent form, but I do not have my clients fill out questionnaires. Leah Loves, thank you for that. That's wonderful. I don't believe in using intake forms. I think they're a waste of time, and I think they only muddy the waters by giving us a lot of information that we don't need. So let's start with talking about what we mean by constitutional iridology. This is a really important thing. We throw the word constitutional around like everybody should know what it means. And what I find is that very few people understand what it actually means. Constitutional iridology is an understanding of the systemic differences between people that have blue eyes versus people that have mixed or biliary eyes versus people who have brown eyes. Each of those 3 categories, we're going to look at those today, has unique predispositions, unique inherited tendencies for specific kinds of problems in specific areas, right? So someone who has blue eyes is going to be prone to very different problems from someone who has brown eyes. And so when we look at that basic chemistry of someone who has blue eyes versus someone who has brown eyes, we can start to put them into some categories of things like, I know to look for these kinds of problems if I'm working with a blue-eyed person, and I'm not surprised when they have those kinds of problems, versus I'm looking for these kinds of problems in a brown-eyed person, right? And I'm not surprised if they have those problems. And that mixed category, that biliary category that's in the middle, again, I know what kinds of problems to expect to find, and or underlying weak links, if you will, that can help to explain why they have the symptoms they have. So when we're talking about constitutions, we are talking about categories of people where we understand what their chemistry is going to be just by knowing their basic eye color, where we understand what their tendencies, their health tendencies, and even personality tendencies are going to be just by knowing their eye color. Can you see how understanding that alone will likely speed up your assessment process, that it will likely reduce the amount of time it takes to create a protocol, a next step protocol. I'm not talking about a lifelong protocol. I'm talking about a protocol that will take them from where they are now in their health up one level where we've reduced a symptom, we've improved the functioning of an organ or a system. Does that make sense? Is that something that resonates with you, the idea of being able to quickly and on a deeper level understand each client individually? Is that something that would work for you? If that is something that would work for you, give me an "oh yeah" in the comments. Let me know that you are there. Let's start with the lymphatic eye, or the blue-eyed person. Now, where I live, blue eyes are predominant, and where you live, that may not be the case. So we will look at the brown-eyed people, and we will look at the mixed people as well. And so as we do this, I just want you to know I don't have any favorites, right? But we find that many of the markings are much easier to see and to learn when we are looking at a blue iris. So when we are looking at a blue iris, that falls into the constitution that we call lymphatic. So that's the name of the constitution, lymphatic. These people always have some blue in their eyes. And as you look at this eye, you can see that we've got visible threads. Now, for those of you who are with me on Instagram, I'm going to move my camera closer. There we go, and try to get a better angle for you. It won't be quite as steady because I'm holding this, doing it handheld. There we go. So you can see we've got lots of blue, we've got fiber, we've got visible threads. Now, these people may have some other colors over their eye as well. Like we've got little bits of color in here. Not a lot, but a little bit. There may be much more than this in some people. And so when we see this general set of factors, of criteria, there's some blue, and we see fibers, we know this is a lymphatic eye. We know that these people, and you want to make notes here, these people tend to have problems, tend to have more of a risk of issues with mucous membranes, with having too much acid through their body. So I'm not necessarily talking stomach acid here. I'm talking throughout their body. This is where you want to make sure you've got a good foundation in anatomy and physiology when you're learning iridology. And these people also can have problems with the lymphatic system, which comes as no surprise since we are calling them lymphatic constitutions. So when we see these, because we understand that those are some of the key areas where they are likely to have challenges, we know that there are questions we want to ask. So we never tell the client what is wrong, because especially if it's a first meeting, we don't know them from Adam. We don't know what they're already doing for their health. We don't know what their health history is. And so we never tell them what is wrong. We ask them, is there a personal or family history of? And the most common things that show up in that category of mucous membrane issues and acid problems and lymphatic challenges are, is there a personal or family history of asthma, allergies, arthritis, skin complaints? So that could be eczema, psoriasis, acne, and kidney issues. Now, do you understand how all of those things tie back into potentially issues with mucous membranes, issues with acid levels that are out of balance, and possibly issues with lymphatics? If that makes sense, if you understand that, give me a yes in the comments box. I will tell you right now, the more you play with me in my chat box, the more information you'll get out of me. The less interaction there is, the flatter I get. I need that feedback. When we understand that, again, if you understand your biochemistry, what you know is that when somebody has elevated blood acid, elevated acid in their tissue, Leah loves. Thank you for that. What you also know is that elevated acid depletes mineral levels, particularly calcium and magnesium. And these people are also often prone, this particular constitution is also prone to thyroid and parathyroid imbalances, which are responsible for balancing your calcium, right? And so when we see a lymphatic person, we almost always need to also ask the question, is there a personal or family history of thyroid or parathyroid issues or bone issues? They may think their thyroid is fine, but they might have been diagnosed by their doctor with osteoporosis. Oh, well, then we need to do some digging and ask some questions and do some iris analysis to see if we can understand why they would have that. We need to understand their diet. We need to understand what's going on emotionally in their life as well, since those can all be factors in osteoporosis. All right, so when we see a blue eye, we are going to be aware that their greatest risks are mucous membrane, lymphatic system, and acid levels. And the questions we ask our client are going to be centered around that. And we're not going to ask, do you have elevated acid in your blood? Because if you've got a client who knows that, they probably don't need you, right? Right? But the symptoms of elevated acid in the blood are arthritis, calcium deposits, bursitis, any inflammatory process, right? So you need to ask the question in a way that your client will understand. We're not dumbing it down. I think that's an insult. We are simply understanding where our client is and asking the questions in a way that will resonate with our client, that our client will understand, so they can give us the answers we need to hear, whether it's a yes, there's a history of, or no, there's no history of that. Right? And so we use the eyes in conjunction with our client's symptoms to guide the questions we ask to understand what is going on in the body, because maybe this person figured out just on their own years ago that they feel better when they don't consume a high acid diet. So maybe they're doing just a little bit of good organic protein, lots of vegan proteins, plant-based proteins, lots of leafy vegetables, and they're drinking water. And so at that stage, you don't actually need to be teaching them a whole lot about diet so much as you need to be teaching them about how their body works and maybe supporting their digestion, for instance. Here is another lymphatic eye. Notice how different this one is from the first one we looked at. As we look at this, we've got a blue-gray background, but here again, we've got a very different color towards the center of the eye. These colors that we see give us much more information about the person. The color itself tells us which organ in the body wants to be out of balance, and the placement of the color tells us which other organs are likely to suffer because of that imbalance. So really important when we look at this, again, understand what the client's symptoms are, look at the iris, ask questions based on what the client's goals are and what you see in the iris, get the answers, then formulate the program. So again, all lymphatic eyes have some blue. All lymphatic eyes, you will see at least some of the threads in the eye. We may have other colors overlaying in the eye, which is just fine as well. And again, same types of health concerns and same kinds of questions, right? Is there a personal or family history of whatever you're thinking the concern is based on their symptoms and what you see in the eyes? And again, focusing especially on the high acid risks, the lymphatic risks, the mineral assimilation possibilities that could be risks there, and Yeah, so thyroid, lymphatics, mucous membranes, all that kind of good stuff. Let's do a quick case study. Here we have a client of mine, mid-30s. She is a lymphatic constitution, the blue eyes with the extra little bit of color in there. Wanted to get pregnant. Notice she has a very tight collarette, which suggests she's predisposed to constipation, poor energy production. However, we never tell a client what they should feel. So in this case, we asked about how's her energy. Her energy is actually great because she's got a really good diet and a very healthy lifestyle. Brilliant. I don't need to focus on that. I will often ask the question, not just how's your energy, because that's kind of out there, but I'll ask, do you have enough energy to get through the day comfortably? How many hours of sleep do you get? Right? And those two questions, and do you feel rested when you wake up in the morning? That tells me what I need to know about energy. Now, she's also a mild polyglandular. She's got a few of these little loops in her eyes. That suggests she's a little bit prone to hormone imbalances. And so we needed to ask her about her thyroid, pancreas, adrenals, because those are all related to reproduction, and she was trying to get pregnant. We did have her charting her basal body temperature, which tended to be low, which suggested a subclinical hypothyroid, right? Again, her diet's very, very clean. She does not have any blood sugar issues. So this, again, her eyes suggest a predisposition towards a bit of leaky gut, but we can't diagnose that because we don't have those lab tests available. But her diet is really good and very, very clean. I often tease my clients who are very clean eaters, and I tell them I want to live with them because I like their diet so well. And she's one of those. We know from what we see in here that there are she maybe doesn't digest her proteins very well, so we needed to offer some support there. Did notice that there might be some challenges with how she handles her blood sugars. So again, her diet's great. I'm not overly concerned about that. When we look at the ovarian areas on both sides, there is fiber running through them at various strange angles, which could be a part of the problem. So what did we do with her in that first appointment? And that intake, the taking of the pictures of the eyes and doing the analysis with her or looking at the eyes for that appointment would have taken approximately 45 minutes. That's it. That leaves me about 15 minutes to create a program for her. And knowing what I know about her, we needed to make sure she was on a good prenatal vitamin. She was totally open to that. I wanted her on a methylated folate, right? Because that's always a better option. That's a better option for most women than just a folic acid when they're trying to get pregnant. I knew we needed to use some nerve nutrients with her. She knows how to manage her lifestyle, but she can get kind of uptight. And we wanted to use some N-acetylcysteine with her in case a part of the problem was that her liver was not dealing with the phase 1, phase 2 hormone detoxification. Right? Again, this is where you need to understand your anatomy and physiology in order to do iridology well. And so that is where we took her on her assessment, an hour, that's it. And then I've been seeing her typically 4 to 6 months or 4 to 6 weeks apart while we work on fine-tuning her program to help her conceive. This is what one of my students said after she had finished my course. When I asked her, why did you choose my course? She said, and she actually has a master's degree in education, so this holds a lot of weight. I'd seen enough of instructors online to know you were the best teacher, the way you organize info, check for understanding, and coach students. Other instructors know their stuff, but you have the heart of a teacher. I wanted to graduate with understanding, not just knowledge. I love that. Love that. You ready to look at another eye type? If you are, give me the word eyes in the chat box. Eyes. Are you ready to look at another eye type? All righty. Thank you so much for that. And if you're still typing in eyes, go ahead and give that to me. Give me that little bit of feedback. This is what we call a hematogenic iris. Hematogenic. Now, you will recognize this as a brown eye. Thank you, Soulful Starseed. Thank you for saying that. And Leah Loves, thank you. Appreciate that. All righty. So here we are. And thank you, Healthwise. Brilliant. So when we look at the hematogenic eyes, you may live in a part of the world where this is the predominant eye type, and you need to know how to read these. You can see as much detail in the hematogenic eye as you can in the lymphatic eye if you know what to look for. So the hematogenic eye is brown. It may have gold. You will not see the threads in the eye that we saw in the lymphatic eye. You will not see them in the hematogenic eye because in this eye, there is a lot of pigment, and that pigment is on top of those threads. So it is totally hiding them. There won't be any visible blue or green in these eyes. You'll see brown and gold. These people with the hematogenic eye type are more prone to stomach and digestive problems, problems with the heart and circulation. They tend to be a little more alkaline, which, as you know from your biochemistry, means that they may have problems assimilating minerals. We need to be slightly acidic, ever so slightly acidic, in order to assimilate minerals. And so these people tend to be more alkaline, which means they may not assimilate their minerals well, which means they may not have the minerals they need to run the endocrine system. So we need to watch them for their endocrine balance. Now, there's a lot more in this eye that we're not going to talk about right now because it's not specific to the brown-eyed constitution. Again, here's another example of a beautiful hematogenic eye. The exact same things. Might have some gold in it, has a little bit of gold. The white that we see in some of these little, what look like holes in the eye, doesn't change the fact that this is a hematogenic constitution. This is actually not in the surface of the eye, and so it's not affecting our constitutional analysis. Again, they will sometimes also have problems with their spleen, as well as all of the things that we mentioned on that first iris. So do you see how if you understood, if you were working with a hematogenic iris and the person came in, for example, with some hormonal imbalances, how you could, by looking at their eye, understanding their lifestyle, do things to help build the acid level to help them assimilate their minerals more effectively, right? You might not know to do that. I mean, when we look at the stomach zone and the stomach lining where it shows up in the iris, we get more clues as to whether they can actually, on their own without help, absorb their minerals. We also would use their diet. What is their diet like? You know, if we've got a brown-eyed person who's gone completely vegetarian and has absolutely nothing acid producing in their diet, we might need to actually coach them to add some acid forming foods, right? Or we would need to add some supplements that are going to help them digest things a little bit better. This is truly the hematogenic eye. So as we look at these hematogenic eyes, again, we've got that ferrum chromatose that makes it look stripy, which makes it look like we can see fibers, but these are a much darker eye. We've got the brown and the gold. This was a 50-something-year-old female client who came to me with hot flashes, a history of depression. She felt she'd worked through that, and she's a psychologist, so she's got lots of tools at her disposal. She's got a really clean diet, and she's really great with taking her supplements. She knows a lot about them, so she's very confident and comfortable using them. The one big weak link she has is that she drinks Turkish coffee every day and a little bit of green tea. So when we see that she's got these contraction furrows, when we see that she actually has this really dark pigment down here, this all suggests that we need to support her B vitamins and that she needs her Bs methylated. When we see the clouding at the edge of her eye, it tells us that very dynamically her liver probably has some challenges metabolizing carbohydrates, which may mean that her cholesterol may be out of balance, her triglycerides may be out of balance. She may have problems with her phase 1, phase 2 liver detox. We've got some blood vessels in the sclera that are a little bit congested. So her prime concern when she came to see me was the hot flashes. She wanted them to be gone. And so what we did, knowing what her diet was like, knowing what her body needs, is we suggested that it would be a good idea to test giving up the coffee for 10 days, which she did. And when she came back for follow-up, she said, oh yeah, you know, no coffee meant no hot flashes, totally cleared them up. Now, I don't believe in telling my clients what to do. I believe in educating them and letting them do what they feel is their best choice. And so when I asked, and so how will you proceed from here? Will you continue off the coffee, or what are you going to do? She said, well, coffee is my only vice. I don't drink any alcohol. I've got a healthy lifestyle. And quite frankly, I enjoy my coffee every day. And so I'm going to keep drinking coffee. I will talk to my doctor about changing my hormone replacement. I just about cried, but it's not my decision. I taught her she could see for herself what coming off the coffee would do, because coffee depletes the B vitamins. It's hard on the liver. It gets in the way of the phase 1, phase 2 detox. But she preferred keeping her coffee, her choice entirely. All right, well, do this, then we're going to pop back to that biliary. So Karen Choate is a graduate of mine, and I asked her, how has Iridology helped you in your practice? She's a CNHP. She specializes in gut health. She said, Iridology has helped me to understand the relationship between different organs and organ systems more in depth, gives her the advantage of seeing the potential for different genetic traits and qualities that might be underlying. And by observing the constitution, you can extrapolate how the person's body will likely respond to different applications of healing methods. It has helped her to expand her knowledge and increased efficiency at providing more precise recommendations for health-oriented options. I love that. Okay, we're going to pop back to here to look at our biliary type. I just need to see where we're at there. Okay, so we're right here. This is the biliary type. Now, again, this may look a little like a hematogenic eye, but when we get super close, you can see that there's threads in there, right? So we see those threads. So you might call this a hazel eye. We call it a biliary eye. It is a true genetic mix of a blue eye and a brown eye. But what you will see here is that there is no visible blue in this eye. There might be green, but there won't be blue. Many old school iridologists will look at this and will say this person is toxic. They need a lot of cleansing. They'll give a long list of problems. Constitutional iridology does not agree with that. Again, in the biliary eye or the mixed eye, there will be no blue. There will be some fibers, at least a few. They might have white or gold in these contraction furrows. They might have golden highlights or orange, might be a little bit darker towards the center of the eye. Those are all things that we look for in the biliary type. The kinds of questions we would ask would circle around digestion, liver, gallbladder, and pancreas, because those are the areas that these people tend to have more challenges in. Now, you have to ask those questions right, because if you ask, do you have any problems with digestion? People usually think of bowel movements. They don't think of digestion. So you need to ask about heartburn. You need to ask about, are there foods that sit heavy? Are there foods you've learned to avoid because they don't sit well in your stomach, right? So we ask stomach-related questions. If you ask the client, how's your liver? They'll either say fine, or they'll give you a blank stare like, how would I know? Right? So you need to ask liver questions, or if you observe that they are jaundiced or that they've got skin problems, or this is again where you need to know your anatomy and physiology to understand what are the symptoms that the liver can create in other parts of the body. Gallbladder. They may not know if they've got a gallbladder problem. Again, if there's symptoms that they want help with, suggests there may be a gallbladder issue, and you look at their eyes and you go, oh, they're biliary, which increases their risk of having a gallbladder issue, then you need to be able to understand what the gallbladder does and what symptoms it can create, to ask questions in plain English so your client can give you the best information possible. We also often find pancreatic issues here. And so again, understanding what the pancreas does, what symptoms they might experience if the pancreas is not doing its job fully. And pancreas does much more than just insulin. So you need to know what all those jobs are, and be able to ask those questions in a way that your client will understand. Again, they are coming to you for information and help. If they knew what you knew, if they could speak in the jargon that you can speak in, they wouldn't need you. So you need to speak their language, right? Is that something that makes sense? If that makes sense, give me a 2 in the comments. But you never want to be speaking way up here over their head. You need to be speaking in words they understand. All right. So here we have another good biliary example. Often this will look like a light brown, but what you're really looking for, or very gold, is you're going to get really super close and you're going to see that there are fibers. All right, so let's pop back up to that biliary example we had for case study here. All right, so here we are with biliary. Health-wise, and Leah, thank you for saying that that all was fitting for you. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. 2-year-old, 3rd generation client, right? So we've got biliary here. Excellent diet. Everything is from scratch. Loving home, intact home. I mean, I want to grow up in that house. Lovely, lovely family, really. She doesn't go to daycare. She has her grandma and a nanny that take care of her. And, you know, the nanny has become a good friend of the family. So this is all a good thing. This little girl is anxiety tetanic, which means she internalizes her stress quite strongly. She has slight netting, which is really hard to see on my phone. So those of you on Instagram might not see this very clearly. Slight netting here. And the collarette's kind of constricted, so she's a bit of an introvert. She's got a little bit of pherochromatose, a little bit of the brown radiating outward. And, but she's got really decent fiber structure overall. So she's got good resiliency. And one of the things that this all comes down to, and the mother was just wanting to know sort of general, what does her daughter need? No health problems, no real concerns, really a happy, well-adjusted child, a child who you can reason with and talk things through with, and she gets it and she can go with the flow. She can express her own opinion as well, which is brilliant. So she's really at a really great stage in her development. So when I looked at her eyes and I saw that she's quite an introvert, I suggested to the mom that the best thing that she can do is to give this child lots of opportunities to interact with small groups of people and to be creatively expressive, to help this child express herself in more ways than just with her words. And words are great, but I suggested, you know, getting into some tumbling classes or dancing classes or painting and drawing and things like that. And we also see in her eye, she's got this little mark right here, which is what we call a fermentation sign. And that suggests that she may not be handling her carbs. Now, she is really into the fruit really heavily, which is not a good answer for this little girl, because it can set her up for some sugar imbalance later on. And that is going to be very climate specific. All right, I want you to remember, I live well north of the 49th parallel, where our variety of fresh fruit that is grown locally is very small. And so our metabolisms don't handle a lot of food that grows in hot climates. Like this year has been remarkable. We've had 3 weeks of 30 above centigrade, which is like mind-blowing. We are melting up here. Some of you, that's normal, but for us, it's mind-blowing. And so knowing that if you would adjust the diet based on where your client lives, right? Because each of us has not only our own genetic needs, but our climate dictations as well. And so we had to coach her away from using a lot of melons and grapes and things that are imported, and coach her more towards berries and things that are grown locally. Alrighty. So this is another graduate of mine, Mike Knapp. He's a naturopath in Arizona. I asked him why he chose my class. He said the interactive online platform with an experienced teacher and practitioner, that's what he wanted. I said to him that the fundamentals of Iridology could be learned in this format, and that's what was delivered, plus a lot more on how to integrate it directly into current practice. I'm very happy with the training, so thank you. Remarkable. Love it, love it, love it, because that's what I aim for. Amazing. So, tiny little commercial here, 30 seconds at most. The next go-round of Dynamic Iridology Assessment System is starting on September 9th. The course time will run 12 noon to 2 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, and it runs for 20 weeks. We will take a week or two off over Christmas. And so if you want to learn more about the course, if you are a holistic health practitioner and you are looking for an Iridology program with a live teacher online where things are recorded for you to review, where there's a lot of mentoring and support, then I invite you to join me for an info session on August 19th at 4 p.m. In that webinar, we will be looking at all the ins and outs and do's and don'ts of the course. And I do just need to double check that I have the exact right link here, because sometimes I forget to put the right one into my notes. So if you'll just bear with me for just a tiny moment while I double check this. Yes, I think that was the right one. It would just be terrible to send people to the wrong place. That is the right one. So I will copy and paste this into the chat box here. If you are with me on Instagram, and if you are interested in getting this link for the info session, please send me a DM. Send me a DM so I can paste the link for you there. All right, send me a DM, because August 19th at 4 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, we will be spending some time going over everything that's included in the course and give you all the information you need to decide if this course is the right one for you and if this is the right time for you. Again, the Dynamic Hybridology Assessment System is the only course that is live, online, and fully mentored, designed for nutritionists, herbalists, and naturopaths who want to streamline their clinical work without sacrificing client care, so that you can stop, in case these are any things that you have problems with, working unpaid overtime to create your client programs, so that you can stop creating programs that are too big and too hard and overwhelming for your clients. Because you all know what happens when you create a program like that, right? Your clients drop out and they don't come back. They get no success. So we teach you how to use Iridology, how to ask the question. We teach you Iridology and how to use it, and how to ask the right questions to create programs based on what you already know about nutrition or herbology or whatever modalities you've got. And we teach you how to do that in a way that will not overwhelm your client and that will encourage them to keep coming back to you for several appointments, so that you can build their program step by step and help them enjoy amazing success. That sound good? If that sounds good, give me a thumbs up somewhere, or let me know that it sounds good. Maybe just, if you can't give me a thumbs up, give me a sounds good in the comment box. Again, that URL, for those of you who are with me on the webinar, if you would like to join me for the next info session, I've just posted that link back in the chat box. And if you're with me on Instagram, or if you're watching the replay on Facebook, just PM me and I will shoot you the link personally and privately so that you've got that. All right. So with that, my friends, that's everything I have. Just want to know if there's any questions or comments before we wrap up for today. I'll give you just a minute. I hope you're having a fabulous day while we're waiting for final questions, comments. Health-wise is thumbs up. Awesome. Fabulous. Okay, so it's all good. And I don't think I'm seeing any questions or comments coming in. I know there's a bit of a delay for them to get here. But I look forward to seeing you, and we're just going to go back to here on August 19th. 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Leah Loves, thank you for the thumbs up. Really appreciate that. And Chat Monkey, thanks for the wave. Again, double check what time 4 p.m. is in your time zone. Use your international clock on your smartphone or use a time zone converter online to make sure you've got the time right. Health-wise, you are more than welcome. And I look forward to seeing you hopefully on the 19th. Take good care. Bye for now.